Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. But God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Well, that was exactly what we've all been waiting for. You know, it really felt like the first time this series, it was the first time this series in 3 games where the Knicks played like the better basketball team, right? Even with the game 1 victory, it was that spurt in the fourth quarter where they went on that 21-0 run that really helped them win the game. Were there moments? Sure. Other moments, yeah. But they did not play better basketball. And then you get to game 2 at the Garden. You let Detroit steal one on your floor. You're obviously not playing the better game. But just throughout the game, the Knicks didn't look like the Knicks. And by no means was it peak Knicks basketball. There were a lot of things still left to be desired in, was this Thursday's game? I'm recording this on Saturday. But it was by far the first time this series where the Knicks showed the Pistons who they were, and the Knicks showed the Pistons who the Knicks were. They played physical back. And I loved seeing the Detroit fans get all in their feelings about that because they only like physical when it works for them. They not erased, but they quieted all the noise about Towns by getting him involved, and we'll certainly make that a theme in this episode. And they pull away with this. You know, it was only a 118 to 116 win at the end of the day, but the Knicks kind of, let Detroit get back in it there in the final minute, along with some other nonsense that went on. But it was a really well-played game for the Knicks, and I watched the first half of it at work, so I wasn't 100% focused into the details and the X's and O's like I usually like to be. But I did catch the second half at home. It seemed like the first half of the game, the Knicks were playing good basketball, but it was just a good basketball game. There were some tough offensive moments, like Mitchell Robinson and Karl Towns both being in the paint for way too long, just creating awful spacing. But the Knicks were able to maintain a competitive game by playing with pace. And again, that goes back to Towns and Hart's work in transition to keep hunting, 3-point shots for other Knicks. Hart was doing a really good job playmaking. And yeah, it was a game that the Knicks they played really good, solid ball. And I watched these games with so much passion and so much emotion. Every time Detroit makes a basket, and every time their crowd makes a lot of noise, I get annoyed. I thought the back and forth was fun. The scuffle in the first half there was pretty fun. It was playoff ball. But nothing was better than beating Detroit in their own home and seeing their fans leave early. Some would say too early. We don't do that at Madison Square Garden. No, we don't. But Yeah, it was kind of crazy too at the end, but a clever job, a very clever job trying to cheat at the end there. The Detroit score table was purposely screwing up the shot clock or the game clock to give Detroit that extra inbound. So that was cute. Nice job executing. Didn't even get a possession out of it. I did think the Knicks were stupid to have Brunson miss that free throw attempt. You got just a half a second left. Make the shot and risk Detroit needing to make a full court heave to tie the game with 0.5 left. I thought they should have just let him make it. But besides that, I thought the Knicks, I thought Brunson played a good game. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. Very clutch shot making. 12 fourth quarter points for the NBA's clutch player of the year. Had just received those honors before the game. He knocked down a floater to put the Knicks up 8 with 8 minutes to go. Knocks down the step back to put them up 5 with 4 minutes to go. He converts that 1-on-2 transition finish to put the Knicks up 5 with about a minute and a half left, or a little less than that. Puts the Knicks up 7 the next time down with a left-handed finish. And I love the fact that Jalen Brunson took 6 free throw attempts in the fourth quarter alone. That just made me laugh, just because the irony of the Detroit fan base crying and soaking in their tears when they've got Dennis Schroeder on their team doing what he does. Also, if you ask me, I mean, this goes back. This has been a pet peeve of mine forever. It's a pet peeve of mine how other NBA fans' pet peeve is free throw shooting and free throw attempts. I do not care how you get your buckets. Get buckets and win the game. That's all I care about. I don't care how it comes. It's got to be like a newer generation thing where like people care about the outlook of it outside of like, I don't, the only one thing that I care about is the outcome. I don't care about the outlook. I care about the outcome. It is wild that people care so much how other players get their buckets. Just get me a bucket. I don't care how you get the bucket. Get me a bucket. I've been saying this for the longest time. Like, I was one of the few people on earth back when James Harden was with the Houston Rockets and he was in his prime and the way he was getting his baskets. I was one of the few people on earth who could not give two shits about the free throw stuff. I loved watching him because I thought it was unique. It was creative. It's like people are always going to find a way to hate on the game's best scorers. When Harden was the best scorer in the game, he was getting so much shit for that. Now it's SGA. And now in this series, it's Jalen Brunson. It's crazy. I don't care. Get buckets. I'm going off track. I thought Brunson played a good game. The rest of the Knicks, Mikal Bridges had a strong two-way game. 27-3 with 5 stocks. I thought he was doing a nice job. Movement shooting off the ball. Right? Mikal Bridges type stuff where he's relocating on the three-point arc to get some shots up. He opened the game with a 3-point bucket this way. Of course, he was exploiting some drop coverage again. Attacking, backtracking bigs downhill. He even had a really nice possession where you have that empty side pick and roll where he gets an and one finish with Detroit in high coverage. That was late in the third quarter on Tim Hardaway Jr. He drives on him, finishes and one. He was exploiting Dennis Schroeder in mismatches a couple of times. And of course, he knocks down a big shot at the 7-minute and change mark to put the Knicks up double figures. Defensively, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Thought he had good ball denial. Really good job there. I thought, he switched back to Cade and was at the point of attack for a stretch in this game. Thought he did a nice job. Anunoby was good. 22 points, 3 stocks. Good two-way game for him. Got 8 threes up, knocked down 3. Hart had a Josh Hart game. 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 stocks. We'll talk about Karl Anthony Towns. You go to the bench. We'll talk about Mitchell Robinson. Deuce McBride, not great. 3 points, 4 shots, 9 minutes. The Knicks need to start getting more from him. He's had a down year. but he's way too important to not really be too productive. Campaign had some nice moments in the second quarter to extend the Knicks lead a couple of times. A floater. He knocks down a corner after that. And so the Knicks, once again, win 118-116 in Pizza Arena. Thank God the Knicks don't have some corporate bullshit as the name of their arena. Oh, could you imagine if it wasn't Madison Square Garden? I don't even want to speak that into future existence. Oh my gosh, that would bother me so much. But something tells me if it ever went that way, people would still call it Madison Square Garden. But Jesus, can you imagine your home arena being called Little Caesars Arena? Oh my God. That's hilarious too for like a fan base that prides themselves on this toughness. You guys want to go to Little Caesars tonight? The arena? Fuck out of here. But I thought the Knicks played really, really well. I want to start with the obvious, which was a big talking point after their loss in Game 2. We throw the term around often here, especially in the second half. We've used the term egalitarian offense, right? Which is just in normal human words, equal opportunity offense. That's been a big topic in the second half. It's been a big topic in the first couple of games here, even in the Game 1 victory. And it's something between Tibbs, Brunson, and Towns himself, right? But there was an early and conscious effort throughout the entire night, too, to get Towns post touches and 3-point looks. And I thought you got to credit Tom Thibodeau. I think you got to credit Jalen Brunson for spreading the wealth, right? I mean, everybody got their looks in this game. Everybody got reps. Bridges took 13 shots in this game, 3 free throw attempts, scored 20 points. Anunoby, 17 shots, took 6 free throw attempts, finishes with 22 points. Towns with 18 shots, 7 free throw attempts, 31 points. So, guys got theirs. And on top of that, Brunson got his 30. I think that's a nice job by Jalen Brunson, the point guard, the captain, of approaching this game a lot differently than he had been so far in this series. It wasn't perfect, but you saw conscious efforts to get these guys involved more and make it more of an equal opportunity offense. And that's Tibbs, right? When Tibbs realizes that he's allowed to put players in motion off the ball and he's allowed to move the ball itself, like when he realizes that's worth the risk of turnover because of the weapons that Towns and the Knicks wings are, that's when you get your offense being as elite as it can be. You have 4 20 points per game scorers. Use them, right? It doesn't always have to be Brunson pick and roll into ISO to draw a whistle or to get to a short mid-range spot. But you can use that to drive and kick. And I thought Tibbs realized that last night. He's like, oh, wow, I don't just have to go to Brunson ISO. I can use my other weapons. And you know what? If we have to risk a turnover with this more motion and more movement, so be it, because the trade-off's probably well worth it. We need to start seeing that more. But I did like the fact that Towns was able to get the amount of touches that he got on Thursday night. We can go through his entire shot diet, but, you had Bridges, Hart, them two, especially Brunson, hitting Towns a bunch as a trailer for 3-point looks in transition, especially early in the game. You had Josh Hart hitting him as a trailer to attack downhill when Jalen Duren was on him. You had the wedge screen early in the game to get Towns a post touch. You had a slob action to get Towns a paint touch off of Staggers. Goes to the other side of the floor off it. Gets a layup out of it. A Deuce McBride pin down to get Towns a 3-point look. Towns was aggressive in isolation on Jalen Duren a couple of times. You had that nice possession in the third quarter The Knicks run a DHO keep, ends up, getting into a spinning layup, and he finishes left hand at the rim. Filthy move by Cat. And yeah, just like definitely some good job on Tobias when the Detroit Pistons were cross-matching with the wing to Cat. It was Tobias again. And I thought Towns did do a nice job exploiting that early to put Tobias into foul trouble, right? By spamming that wing mismatch. And it's crazy that we see that as something that's not a mismatch because it needs to be a mismatch for him. But by spamming that cross match and getting Tobias into foul trouble, that's going to allow the Knicks to get into the offense they're more comfortable with, which is that traditional offense where the Knicks will be able to get the big back to Towns and run their 1-5 pick and rolls, right? You get Tobias off the floor, now they have to put the big back to Cat. And Brunson's going to get a big when he runs pick and roll with Cat and drop coverage. And Cat's going to have a small on him on the roll, on the drive, on the pop. So it's important that we continue to exploit that. I thought he exploited that in the fourth quarter nicely, right? He had that big Carmelo Anthony type shot. Post fadeaway on the right baseline over Tobias Harris. That was an elite shot. Don't see that a ton in his bag. But yeah, the Knicks did a nice job of that. I thought they did a fine job of using Josh Hart on the dunk spot for the most part. This way they were able to prevent help and put Detroit in trouble if they decided to overcommit to the help. With Tibbs doing what's right and with Hart having a Josh Hart game and with Brunson having an unselfish game, put all that together, that is how you unlock Karl Anthony Towns. It's as simple as that. But, still in this game, it was a little too often where the Knicks went away from those 1-5 pick and rolls when Jalen Duren was on Towns. You need to spam that. That needs to be your biggest strength. If you don't do the amount of damage that you really should be doing when the wing is on Towns, you've got to be spamming those 1-5s when you've got the 5 on Cat. And I thought for a good portion there to start the second half, big chunk of the third quarter, the Knicks were wasting time with these bullshit, intricate actions where they could have just went to a simple 1-5 traditional pick and roll there. And they finally go to it late in the third quarter. You finally get a Brunson Cat pick and roll, and it results in a very easy pull-up jumper where Brunson's got Jalen Duren in a shallow drop, pulls up on him with the space, knocks it down. So that's probably the only nitpick I have. But all in all, it was a really nice job of getting Towns the amount of touches he needs to get in this game. So that's why I'm going to go to Towns as the best player on the floor on Thursday night and hand him the Bing Bong game ball. Yeah, Karl Towns finishes the game. 31 points. He shot 56%, 10 for 18. 50% from 3. He was 4 for 8. And he was 100% at the foul line. Again, 7 out of 7. A +8. Now, only 8 rebounds, only 1 assist, but did a really good job just getting buckets. And that's why for a second time this postseason, and we're only handing out game balls in wins in the playoffs. That's the rule here, that he gets his second game ball in 2 postseason wins. So I loved, again, the offensive activity. Yes, he had some rough defensive moments, but I even thought there were some really strong defensive moments where he was a force. And again, that pivotal stop on Cade Cunningham down the stretch was big. We're going to talk about that. He also had a great post-game interview when Hahn interviewed, or it was, I think, Breen, through the mic, was interviewing him, and or through the earpiece. And, he was talking about the bullshit that went on in the end there, and that was pretty funny. He's like, shout out to the scorer's table. I don't want to get fined. So I'll just keep it at that. But yeah, Towns was excellent. Good to see him bounce back. Need to keep doing that. Go to the second unit. Mitchell Robinson. Again, there were some tough moments where Mitchell Robinson was taking too much offensively away. And when he's on the floor, the Knicks are giving up spacing. So he has to be doing the things that he does well offensively when he's out there. And that's screening, that's offensive rebounding. But I thought he did really start to show that. He had the big putback in the fourth quarter to put the Knicks up 7. Had some moments in the first quarter too. A couple of times he was creating extra possessions for the Knicks, right? He had a possession where he was very aggressive on Paul Reed to force a steal to give the Knicks a transition opportunity. And he has the big putback at the very end there to give the Knicks the extra possession. OG misses the free throw. Mitch grabs the O board, ends up in, I think, an OG dunk to give the Knicks a few extra points there before they head into the second. So overall, the bench unit wasn't strong, but I thought Mitch was the best among them. So he gets his first game ball this postseason. And on the season, he finishes where he has so far on the entire year, 7 game balls. So that was Mitchell Robinson's game. And yeah, the defense was good too, which I guess we can segue into the defensive stuff, and we'll do that when we return from break here on the podcast, episode 852 of BD4. Stay with us. Be back in just a sec. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment, and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. Okay. Welcome back to the show, episode 852 of the podcast. I appreciate you all tuning in as always. The Knicks in this game defensively, again, they weren't perfect. Playing the Pistons exactly how other defenses play the Knicks. And the Pistons, how they play the Knicks. They were exploiting the Pistons' non-threats. Oscar Thompson, Ron Holland, just like other teams exploit the Knicks' non-threats, like Josh Hart. So you saw in this game, because of that, Thompson, who is arguably the best wing defender in the NBA, plays just 18 minutes and he sits the entire fourth quarter. That's a big difference. You get him in such a position where he becomes a weak point to your offense, to where he's not going to be able to impact with his defense on Jalen Brunson. That's going to help the Knicks win this series. They can keep doing things like that and exploiting him as a non-threat. Right? Josh Hart was able to roam and help off of Thompson. He was able to help off him completely and consistently. And he was taking away drives from the backside. He was able to help on drives whenever Brunson was put into action. He was that insurance on the back line. Loading up on the roll when the Knicks were in high coverage. And with him loading up from weak to strong side, the Knicks are doing a nice job making those weak side rotations with Deuce or whoever else to cover for Josh Hart. Brunson helping off of Holland, helping off of Thompson in the second half. That prevented the Pistons from running their preferred actions. They like to run veer actions, ghost screen actions, pin downs, DHOs, pick and pops. If Detroit tried running those actions, it would be with the Knicks wings, who all in this game defended exceptionally well. Now, Bickerstaff, they were able to counter that in the third quarter a little bit by relocating whoever Brunson was on. In a lot of cases, it was relocating Thompson near the basket to put Brunson in low man help, right, to exploit him as a rim protector. But I thought the Knicks did an okay job, and this is something they're going to need to do if this remains a theme, of countering that by scram switching Brunson in the Knicks wings, where they would have Brunson pre-switch it or scram switch it, I forget the term, but with one of the Knicks wings to have like OG Anunoby as low man and Brunson will be an OG spot, right? And it's tough to consistently do this because you've got to be quick, you got to be on time, but the Knicks were able to make that less of an issue. But yeah, I thought Brunson, like when he hedged pick and roll, I thought he was fine. He recovered well. I thought the Knicks backside defense was very strong to eliminate the role as a threat whenever Brunson was up high. And I thought OG did a fantastic job in one-on-one against Cade. When Brunson switched on to Thompson, he did that a lot in the second half, where he had Brunson switches onto Asar Thompson. I thought he held his own. So it's about hiding him and making him as less of a weak point as you can. And Brunson, I thought, was fine. Towns, I thought he was, for the most part, committed to the blitz in high coverage. When the Knicks played high, there was still some rough moments that can't happen. Like Towns is going to absolutely have to keep his hands up and be active. And the reason you're in high coverage is to prevent the pocket pass from getting to the roll. If you're not doing that consistently, you're going to yield 2 points at the very least. And sometimes they'll put you into rotation and it'll yield 3 points. But I thought for the most part he was good. I thought Mikal Bridges was way more physical, used his wingspan. He was on Cade some. He finally gave OG Anunoby a reliable switch partner. Big issue in game 2. But overall, the defense stepped up. Wings, bigs, Jalen. Brunson was used correctly on the defensive end. OG was great. Forcing turnovers on Cade. Contesting mid-range looks. Hart's focus was there. That was very sharp. Thought the Knicks' ball pressure was fantastic in the second quarter. And some clutch defense in the fourth quarter when they needed it, right? The two worst defenders on this team got the 2 big stops in the fourth quarter there. You got 3 minutes and a half. 3.5 left. OG Anunoby surrenders the switch with Brunson to Cade Cunningham. Brunson holds his own in isolation. Forces Cade into Josh Hart, who lunges over and just kind of disrupts Cade. And then Brunson makes a nice contest on Cade's mid-range shot, forces the miss with Detroit down 5. A minute and a half left. Detroit's down 3. Cade breaks OG Anunoby's ankles in an isolation. But you got Towns rotating over at the basket to contest the miss from the back line. Knicks rebound it, and they get out in transition. So those were 2 huge plays by the Knicks' 2 worst defenders. So, yeah, I thought the defense was there. So with that said, that's all we got. 30 minutes in, so that's about it. But I appreciate you all tuning in. We are not over yet. We are going to go to a break, and we got our trivia coming up next. Stay tuned for that, and then we'll wrap it up from there. Be right back, and then we'll get to our trivia. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune into our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Okay, welcome back to the show. Knicks win 118-116 in Detroit. Pizza. Let's wrap this one up with our trivia question of the day. Okay. So, for this episode, our trivia question of the day here. Prior to Thursday night, when was the last time the Knicks had 4 players score 20 or more points in a playoff game? Prior to Thursday night, when was the last time the Knicks had 4 players score 20 or more points in a playoff game? Feel like this is a tough question, so I'm going to give you leeway, and I'll say if you can give me the decade, I'll give you that answer. So prior to Thursday night, when was the last time the Knicks had 4 players score 20 or more points in a playoff game? Just give me the decade. That's all you need. And if so, I'll give you a shout out in our next episode in front of all 2 of our listeners. And I appreciate you all for tuning in. So thank you all. And I'll see you very soon. The Knicks defeat the Pistons in Game 3. Game 4 coming up. One more in Detroit. You've already done your job, but you really should be taking that game. You win this one tomorrow afternoon, you're going back to the Garden for a couple of games with a chance to just end this thing. So, looking forward to it. But tomorrow you got a noon game. It's a 1 p.m. game in Detroit. Pizza. Hopefully the Knicks can put this thing to bed. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you soon. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast, and I will see you in the next episode of BD4.